Hi guys, I am here with David Poxson, a researcher at Linköping University at campus Norrköping. And you are a physicist by training.
Yes, that's right.
And are now working in sort of a new intersection field of organic electronics.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Alright. So what is sort of organic electronics?
So that's a really good question. So there's two general things you think of when you think of organics. One is sort of like biology, and the other more technical term for organics is anything with carbon, so like plastics. And so actually organic bioelectronics is merging plastics with electronics and biology.
That's kind of cool. I'm not sure I understand it, but I hope that we will, by the end of this, actually have a better understanding. Yeah, should we go downstairs?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. All right, so now we're here, David, and we're talking about your research.
Yep.
Which we came to the point where you said something about plastics being organics.
Yeah, what do you want to know? I mean, it's kind of a broad question.
It's a broad question, but I know that, let's start. Maybe we should back up and say, how did you end up in academia? Was that always sort of a plan for you?
No, actually, that's a really good question. I always had like an interest in science, so for as long as I can remember, I really liked science. It was like my best classes in coursework. And I had some good teachers, and I grew up with, like TV shows like Mr. Wizard and Star Trek and X-Files. So I always liked science, but I didn't really know like what I wanted to do with science.
Yeah.
And when I went to high school, it was always the advice to, like, you got to go to college. You gotta go. And that was all the advice that I was getting, but I didn't really know
what field. So college is broad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So between my junior and senior year of high school, I actually got a call from the Navy recruiter for the US military. And he was like, hey, you ever think about joining the Navy? And I was like, not really. And he's like, well, we can give you a whole bunch of money for school, and we can probably give you a really cool job. And I was like, that sounds kind of nice. So
I'm listening.
Yeah. So I went and did their tests, and they were like, how about you join the Navy and you work for the intelligence services of the US Navy, and you get to travel the world, and then after 4 years we give you all the money you need to go to college. And I was like, that sounds like a pretty sweet deal. And I signed up. So then right after high school, I joined the Navy for 4 years.
That's cool.
So at that point, I really had no idea of going into science or like what I would do. Then fast forward a little bit. At my time in the Navy, it was like a super enjoyable experience. I really had a great time. Lots of wonderful people. The work was neat and interesting, and I was stationed in Japan for 3 years, so I got to travel the world and see a whole bunch of different countries. But then I was really thinking, like, I really probably ought to go to college. Like, I really have to try that. Like, this is neat, but I couldn't see myself doing that for the next 20, 30 years of my life. So I was like, no, I think I would really regret it if I didn't give college a try. And so I had been doing some reading, some pop culture reading about maybe names you're familiar with, Richard Feynman, Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is cool stuff. Those guys really had a way of like writing about physics and about science. And I was like, that's something that I want to do. I want to go try this.
Yeah.
So after reading these books, I applied for college, one university, to my university back home in Michigan. And they said yes. So got out of the Navy, and then I went to go do physics at Michigan State University.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and that sort of started me on my journey, and I really didn't know what I was getting into, because apparently there's a lot of math in physics, and science isn't exactly like what you see on Star Trek. So
it's not, really?
No, really. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a surprise, but so
But is that still sort of like, because you work right now with sort of very small things.
Yeah, so
is that sort of still that inspiration that you have? You still have that idea of Star Trek and
yeah, very much so.
And like the future in you.
Exactly. So I mean, one of the things that I read that really stuck with me was in one of Feynman's books, and he talks about two really big ideas, and one of them.
Because we will continue with it just a little bit, but. Yes, Feynman.
Yeah, so I was reading one of his books, and I think it might have been in his book, 6 Easy Pieces, I think. And he talks about two really cool ideas, one of which was like fusion, nuclear fusion. And he's talking how much power you can generate from like water. And he says something like ridiculous, like, I forget the exact quote, but it's like 10 liters of water a minute can power all the energy needs of the United States. And I was just like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so when I got into physics, I was thinking, I'm gonna do nuclear fusion. That's what I'm gonna work on that. We're gonna solve it. And then the other idea that he talked about, and the one that you mentioned, is like nanotechnology. So in his thing, he talks about machines making other machines and like making them smaller and smaller, and like how neat this would be. And I was like, that is really cool. Like little robots making other little robots. So like I kind of fell away from the whole fusion idea and got more and more interested in this nanotechnology, different materials, different devices, robots and stuff like that. So
it's really amazing that it's sort of been with you since your childhood.
Yeah.
Somehow that this idea of the we'll wait.
We'll wait.
We'll wait again.
But we can take like a cool cameo. We can like rotate.
Yeah, let's rotate so we can see just see everything. It's like super wide, everything.
Just super loud.
But super loud. And I have like a directional microphone, so all it can hear is just that. That's really cool. I was just thinking, because right now you work in an area where you're trying to deliver drugs to a single cell.
Yes.
And how do you do that? And again, more construction work.
So if I can, I'll just back up just a little bit before the question.
That would be wonderful.
Maybe set the stage a little bit.
Absolutely, that would be great.
So, as I was saying, when I did my education, I was really thinking I'm gonna do like work on energy projects, and I wanna. So after fusion, I sort of got excited about solar cells, and I started working in a lab to make a nanotechnology to make better solar cells. And at the end of that project, at the end of my graduate school education, I had the opportunity to combine the nanotechnology stuff that I was working on with living systems. So we wanted to see how living systems interact with this nano technology that I was working with. So that was really cool because up until then I hadn't really considered like biology as an interesting research area. It's just I didn't think about it or look into it at all. But then after that project, I was like, this is some really neat stuff. This is like the future. I mean, I could sort of see that like solar cells were like rapidly maturing and they were gonna happen with or without me. I didn't need to like contribute. Dave Poxson was not gonna go save the solar cell industry. So I was thinking, I really want to work at the forefront of combining nanotechnology and biological applications. And so then I was also inspired by one of my roommates who had done a postdoc over in Switzerland, and he had really nice things to say about his time working academically in Europe. And so I was thinking of these two things. I want to sort of change my area of focus, but I also kind of want to go to a different part of the world and participate in science, because I just think that like one of the coolest things about science is working with lots of different people and being in a really international environment. And I was like, I really want to see what life is like in Europe and then do this cool science. So I applied all over and I got accepted as a postdoc to Linköping University, working on this project that you mentioned, which is to combine our organic bioelectronics with plants. So the idea with the project was to, if we can make these plastic electronic devices that could like interact with plants, and by delivering biological compounds to them, if we could somehow interact and like maybe regulate and can control how the plant is like doing its things.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a really cool project. I want to be a part of this. I mean, so luckily they didn't want me to do any of the biology. I would have other experts to collaborate with on that, and then I would get to just focus on the material science, the device technology to do that. So should I get into that a little bit?
Yes, I would love that, because it is one of the things that I am, because I have to say, I've always, when we talked, I always thought of you like making these little robots that cruise around and do their thing inside the body.
I really hope that is where it's going someday. I mean, right now we're still really zoomed out from that. We're still trying to figure out like what it would take to do that. But so we're like somehow in this really like transition phase between, you know, the different science fiction futures we have awaiting us. But okay, so the technology. So as we said, it's based on plastics, and one of the things that got discovered very recently was that there's certain types of plastics that can act as electronic conductors.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's really neat about that is then you could potentially make electronic circuits out of plastics, just plastics. You don't need silicon, you don't need this other stuff. And then plastics are really neat because they're soft and they're flexible.
Pliable.
Pliable, stretchable. And so if you can combine like the material properties with like these electronic properties, you could have a perfect system for interacting with living systems. And the other key component is that plastics and like polymers, they also are able not just to electronically conduct, but they can also conduct and control the flow of ions. So like ionic molecules, drug molecules. And so it's really like these merger of concepts where you merge the material properties of the plastics with their capabilities to control both electronic conductivity and ionic conductivity.
Okay.
It might get loud again, so I don't know if we should.
That's all right.
Okay,
we'll continue a little bit, and then where were we? Yes.
Okay, so
delivering.
Delivering. I'll get to it. So
no, we're talking about plastics being both a conductor of
electrons.
And
ions.
And ions, yes.
So like we're kind of familiar with this a little bit in all our electronic stuff, our phones and our cameras. It's all electrons and electricity. And we have really good control over that. A lot of experience with that. And then but biology isn't about electrons so much as it's way more about the ions. So like the different molecules that move in and out of our cells, and like the neurotransmitters.
Should we stand here for just a minute?
Yeah.
Oh, just this way because then the light is better.
Okay, so conducting.
Yes. Yes. So in biology, it's about conducting ions, not electrons.
And so what you want to do is you want to take this thing where you have really good control of electrons, and you want to translate that into control of the ions. So whether it's sensing the ions or delivering ions, but really like with the electronic precision, I mean, you can get really sensitive readings on exact precise quantities. And so this conception of technology is really merging these two concepts, these two worlds of the electronic world and then the soft, like polymer bio world. And so that's like the core idea of the technology of the research.
So where is this heading in the future? What's sort of your hope for it?
That's a really good question. I think you could break it up into like different time periods. I think in the near term, I hope that like this type of research, and I mean it's not just mine but the whole fields, I hope it continues to grow, and I hope we see companies starting to really form and really have nice products that showcase what these things can do.
Like the potential of them.
The potential, and then also to drive further innovation and growth, because I think a lot of the research right now is sitting in the lab.
Yeah.
So people are doing their really good experiments in the lab, but it's just generating papers. We're not generating technology yet. And I don't think it's gonna, until companies really pick this up, it's not gonna receive the engineering focus and the really, but I mean, that's what's gonna drive it to the next level. That's what's gonna enable the science fiction ideas to come to life. So
yeah.
So that's the near term, and in the far and a little bit further out, I just think that these devices and technologies could really just improve the quality of life for everyone on the planet. I mean, we could cure disease, we can interact with our electronics in new futuristic ways. So it's really an inspiring field to be a part of. To work towards like just bettering all of humanity. I don't know, maybe it's a little cheesy. I don't.
But it's not. Is that sort of also what inspires you? Not just sort of this like. Because sometimes we can be inspired to produce something amazing, but it's not what keeps us going when it goes hard. Is that sort of that sense of...
Yeah, for me, very much. I mean, research is, tough, time-consuming.
All of it.
It's really tough, but I mean, being a part of like a bigger thing that's like working towards like this really cool, neat idea that could help a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be why I'm doing it, I think, so.
All right, I think that will be our last... at the end to this walk and talk.
Yeah.
And I'll add your profile with your publications and the little that you did for Linköping.
Okay, great.
In the notes. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.